Hey everybody, it's Andrew Brown, and welcome to the free AWS Cloud Project Bootcamp, bringing you another week as we are approaching week 7, technically week 8 if you start from 1 as opposed to 0. But we are really entering the halfway point or past it, at least at this point, because if there's 12 weeks or 13 weeks, then yeah, we are halfway through the bootcamp. So let's go through our usual slides here, and then we'll get into it. We'll talk about what's going on because I've already prepped the content for this week. So then what are we doing on the stream? You'll find out here in a moment. So let's go over to our slides as per usual and just walk through the usual stuff. So again, this is ran by the AWS Ontario Virtual User Group. I am in Canada. I'm in a very remote town. And so that's the reason why I do this online, because there's just nobody around here that cares about cloud computing. And so it's my opportunity to make a user group that is open basically to the whole world. But remember, it is a Canadian specific user group. If you are looking to join or interested in making more friends, you should try to find what your local user group is. There is a large index on the AWS website. You can find mine there. It says I'm in Toronto, but technically I'm in Scriber, but it doesn't matter where you are. If you do not have one near you, you can always join mine. I want to thank our sponsor, Adrian Cantrell. Without sponsors like Adrian, doing this free bootcamp just would not be possible. And so, by helping him, you're helping me. And I just want you to know that he has certification study courses for basically all the AWS certifications. And I know he's branching out into other things like Docker and other kind of courses. His courses are top notch, so I recommend checking them out. I want to thank WeCloud Data. They are a data science and cloud school, accredited school in Toronto. And so if you are looking for more of a more of like a one-to-one with instructors, and you want to find a program that fits for you, whether it's a boot camp, workshop, something you do on the weekend, they have a variety of types of paid education. They also have a really great free YouTube videos on their YouTube channel, so you might want to go check that out. And I want to thank AWS for helping us cover the costs for this bootcamp in the means of credits. We get credits for people in North America. We've got credits for our She Clouds. And now I got credits. If you're made it to the Fargate week, I've gotten more credits so that we can reduce that spend. So greatly appreciate AWS and their help, and also just the AWS employees in general, because they do a lot to help us out here. So just a reminder, these live streams happen every Saturday at noon Toronto time. And if you miss them, it's okay. They are pre-recorded. They'll end up in the official playlist. And just a reminder to read the FAQs, the outlines, the codes of conduct, the Discord announcements. I update these all the time, and there's great information to be read there. So let's talk about our guest instructor for the week. And this week we have Maish. And so Maish is a developer advocate, a senior enterprise developer advocate, AWS, though I would say that he specializes in containers and serverless. And so I'm really excited to have had a conversation with Maish and be able to ask a lot of technical questions around Fargate. So, it's not possible for Maish to be here on a Saturday stream. So I did get together with him the other day, and we have recorded a video. It's already uploaded, but I'm going to release it tomorrow on Sunday. And basically what I'm doing on that call with Maish is I'm asking a bunch of production questions about, if we take our containers and we put them in production, what are the things that we need to consider? How do we scale on Fargate? Stuff like that. And so it's extremely high value talk that's going to really help you understand container workflows at a production environment. So I really do want you to check it out. And you're going to have to, because it's going to be required homework. So I just want you to know about that. Okay. So now that we've gone through here, let's just talk about where we're at, because I said that I've already pre-recorded the video materials already ahead of time for this week. The reason I did that was to kind of make a way for students to catch up, if that's even possible. But let's go log in and see what we have queued up here for you. I realize that there's a lot of video content, but I just want to help contextualize what it is that we're looking at or that we're coming into for this. And so week 6 and 7 are together. It says serverless containers, which is not true. This is Fargate, so that's a minor mistake. As you know me, I'm making mistakes left, right, and center all the time. I'll go fix that right now. But the next week after that is serverless containers. I must have been thinking about that as I was filling that out. So just give me 2 seconds to switch that over to Fargate. So I'm just going to do that. I'm just doing it off screen here. It'll take me 2 seconds. And I realize that today is April Fool's Day. I'm going to tell you, I don't have any good April Fool's jokes. So if you came here expecting me to say we're going to be using Azure today, that's not the case. But wouldn't that be funny? Actually, it says serverless containers. That's right. Sorry. You know what? It's because the week after this, we have in week 8, we have a serverless pipeline. And so I just was thinking I should read 8 there. Week 7 is no longer here. It's week 6 and 7. So we'll remove that one at some point here. But I just want to show you that, yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on in here. But I want you to know it's not as bad as you think because, the first video, once you get deployed past the application, we're just doing a lot of cleanup work. So the reason why there's a lot of additional videos in here is I'm just trying to get the application rounded out so that we get it into a better working state. From this weekend on, you're going to see a lot more smaller videos because I'm trying to help us clean up the app as we go. There are just things that we have yet to implement. So, for instance, when we've been doing the direct messaging, it'd be really nice to have a profile page and be able to click on a message on a link. Or it's like we haven't implemented the replies, and all that stuff is just general RDS or Postgres queries and front end stuff. And so we have to finish it. It's just like chores. And so I will just keep sprinkling it along until the end of the boot camp. But yeah, just try not to get too worried about the lengths of these things because I know I can make them pretty darn long and cause a bit of stress there. So hopefully that is not a big deal. And yeah, Manny noticed that I have the algorithm open here for Twitter. And I thought that was interesting that they released it because that's one of the hardest components, I would say, to implement this kind of platform. So I'm just going to open this up in a new link. And so I would really like us to do some ML in this bootcamp. I'm not sure if we're going to get the opportunity to do it, but it's worth checking it out. So the big difference between these other platforms, Mastodon, any of these ones that are platforms that are federated, like the Fediverse, and Twitter, is that Twitter uses an algorithm to serve up your homepage, and these other ones do not. And so that's where we see a huge difference between the utility of why people like Twitter. And so another reason is like you can see why Mastodon doesn't have it because doing ML could be expensive, or it could be hard to do self-hosting and things like that. But it's just interesting to see here where they talk about the data coming in, features, so things that they are selecting out of the information as data points, and then filtering through these different algorithms, and then coming out here with filtering on the other end. So I'm sure if I had some time, I could probably put something simple together, but I thought it was just cool to show here and just make people aware that this is now open source. So yeah, maybe this will be a great way for me to figure out how to get more Twitter followers. Though I have seen some people talk about what you can do to do that. But again, I'm not really that interested in there. I just thought it was worth pointing out if you have yet to see this algorithm. And so the interesting thing is it really saw how Scala was readable and how the feed was populated. I actually haven't poked through the code as of yet. It's really interesting because if you remember Twitter back 10 years ago or whenever it was, there was a big fight about whether they're going to use Scala or what's the other one that's on the Java runtime? But it was between that and another language. And so sometimes the reason why companies use a particular language is it's not because it's the best choice, but it has to do with how much pull different developers have to push what they want. But yeah, there is a lot of interesting stuff in here, but I haven't yet went through and combed it. But I think that we're seeing things like a variety of different languages. So we see Python, Rust, C++, Starlark, Scala, Java, and other stuff like that. So, from a cloud perspective, it's interesting to see a mix of languages. As I keep telling you, if you want to be a cloud engineer, you need to be able to work with a variety of different languages. And the Python code in most cases is actually just called Java, and Scala runs on the Java or the JVM. Starlark, I think, is an optimized version of Python. So if we go check that out, Starlark. So down below here, formerly known as Skylark, okay, is a language intended to use as configuration language. It was designed by Bazel Build Systems. Okay, it's a dialect of Python, so it's a dialect of Python. But and I think there might have even been stuff on Hugging Tree on here. So if people don't know what Hugging Tree is, I think it's called Hugging Tree. It's called Hugging Tree, Hugging Face, Hugging Face. What am I talking about? Hugging Tree. And I think you can actually launch some of these models on here, but I haven't spent enough time with it. But it is really cool to check through and read this out. So maybe if I can squeeze time in, I might make a simple ML model or get someone to help us. Um, but yeah, there's not really much to do on today's stream because all the videos are already out there. So I would like to ask, how is everybody doing? This looks cool on the screen, eh? How is everybody doing the boot camp? Where are you at? If you are on, well, just put out what number you're on. Tell me what week you're on. Week 5, week 6, week 7. I want to see it in the chat here so I get an idea where you people are. And that is true. They started on Ruby, and they used Rails, which is, the stuff that I know how to do. I think Ruby and Rails still does have a good fit in the web framework ecosystem. It's just unfortunately they've never best aligned with cloud stuff. So maybe I'll bring Ruby back for everybody. So I'm seeing week 6, week 7. That is great. We're seeing some week 3s, which is fine there as well. Week 4. So Shella has a bit of work to catch up there. Week 5. So a little bit all over the place. But what's really important is to stick with it. I already realize that there a lot of people are trying to keep up during this boot camp. If we go over to Twitter, you probably saw me asking questions. If I can pull it up here. And I'm not sure what my feed's doing here, but I'll go to mine. Who knows whatever's on this feed, right? And so I was just saying here, like, what was the backbreaker for most people? And they were saying DynamoDB. And I'm sure it's not just DynamoDB, but it could have been working with DynamoDB in production or the streams. I know the Lambdas might be tripping a lot of people up for both the RDS and DynamoDB week, but hopefully that stuff will become easier. I think when you're working with CloudFormation or any IAC, it does kind of eliminate a lot of the misconfiguration because you are explicitly defining it. So that's going to be very interesting there. There's been a decision made for next week's implementation. So after this week, we are coming into I'm going to just pull it up here. If it will let me type here, AWS Cloud Project Bootcamp.com. We are coming into our serverless image processing week. And so we're building out a serverless pipeline, which is illustrated in Lucid Charts, which I apparently don't have pulled up right now. And so, I was talking to Christy, and Christy is really, really good with CDK. And so I decided that we should go use CDK. So for those who are asking if we use CDK in this project, not for the main applications, not for the main workload, but we are going to use CDK in a smaller scope for the serverless pipeline. So hopefully that'll be exciting because now we'll be adding another language to the bootcamp. We will now have done Python, JavaScript, TypeScript, and if you're in week 6, 7, we actually end up using Ruby. So I ended up using Ruby this week to generate out template files. So over here we have some herb templates, and there's just going to be a lot of, I'm not showing here on the screen very well, but I'm just going to bump it up here. But we're going to be getting an opportunity to work with a few other languages. So Ruby wasn't too bad. We have it here in the generate env. So as you can see, there's a little bit of Ruby. That's all the Ruby I'm talking about. It's not that crazy, but I want to get you exposure to as many languages as possible. If I had time, I would end up adding Rust. Absolutely, I would love to add some Rust in here, but I don't really have that in place. Another thing that was very interesting as the bootcamp has been progressing is I was just talking to Mesh and I was saying, like, when is AWS or VPC Lattice coming out? Or not necessarily that, but what will be the use case when we can use it? And then guess what? The next day, VPC Lattice is now generally available. So it came out, and so VPC Lattice is out, which is great. If there's some way, any way I could use this in even the smallest inkling, I'm not sure why it's not showing up here. AWS blog, maybe. Um, I would love to use VPC Lattice. Here it is, service to service connectivity. So I thought maybe that VPC Lattice would replace Service Connect. It apparently doesn't, but it works really well, great alongside it. So it's good that we have instrumented our application using Service Connect. And so you can see that what it does is it allows us to connect to basically anything. So if you're running an EC2 instance, you can put it onto your network easily. And so that's going to make things a lot easier. And we see it, please less is better for now. Many newbies in this boot camp. No, more. You get more and more and more. The thing is, like, at the end of the day, you get to take the pace as much, move at the pace that you want, right? So, again, the boot camp is intended as an intermediate audience, right? And so, I would rather give you more information and people fall behind as opposed to giving you less and letting people keep up to date because there's a lot of easy content out there, right? So we need to make sure that we reach that level of complexity. What will happen is we will refactor and streamline this application at some point, and then it will be easier in general for everybody. Thank you, Shella, for the super sticker. Greatly appreciate your support, as always. Um, and yeah, it is a sink or swim. And it is a little bit stressful, but at the end of the day, you have to manage your time and you have to decide how much you want to keep up to date. I was already saying this in the office hours last week that I'm probably going to provide more grace period at the end of the boot camp for people to catch up because when the boot camp's over, or not over per se, but when we reach week 12 or 13, you know, I'll probably follow up with some cleanup videos, and then we'll have a period of time where I might have a lot more, what do you call it, office hours, and then we can really get people up to speed there. So I would just say, you know, if you're falling behind, don't stress out. Move at the pace that you can. If you don't have time for additional homework challenges, which we haven't been issuing as of lately, don't worry about that, and we will figure it out as we go. And yeah, it sure does simulate the work environment because you really are just thrown in there, and that's what it really like is. So unfortunately, if we do refactor the boot camp, it will be more streamlined, and so some of that experience will be removed. But you know, there's different benefits for different folks. So hopefully, it hasn't been too bad for these folks out here. So yeah, I appreciate that people are liking the learning experience. Yeah, just make sure that you paste that stuff out. So there's not really much to talk about here. I wanted to tell you about what was coming out, the videos and stuff like that. And so now that we are 30 minutes in, what I'd like to do is go over to the Discord, open up Q&A, and we can just talk over there. And I'd like to interact with some students over there. Are you going to update the architectural diagram for week 0? I was just thinking about that. Going through all the stuff that we've been doing, I really think that I have to sit down and update it. When I get a chance is the question because I really do want to get more grading out. I know people are getting grades, but the thing is, like, I've graded a lot of people, and some people haven't moved to the next stuff, and so I want to go and get a lot of grading done this week, especially for those who are in like the latest weeks, like the Fargate week or DynamoDB week, because you know there's just a lot of people that still have yet to receive any feedback. I apologize for it, but I am trying to do my best to keep pace there. So you know, hopefully we will see that soon. But anyway, at some point, it would be really nice to update the diagram. I'm just opening up Lucid Charts down here because we have experienced quite a few changes in our architecture. So things that we thought that we could do has actually obviously changed, and so that is stuff that kind of matters here. I mean, I could do this on stream right now, but it would be really boring to watch me update this architectural diagram here. But yeah, like this is probably going to change because I mean we have something here, but it's not necessarily the end solution. When I deployed this, we didn't even go to app. I actually went to the naked domain because I was having trouble with the routing there, even though it should be really easy. And I might go back and change it. There's definitely more that we can do here, but I'll have to circle back here. Yeah, and maybe we could talk about through the major changes. Yeah, sure. I suppose so. But probably just not on this video. We still haven't even done our serverless caching, so we still have to fit that in somewhere. But yeah, I do wish that we were referencing this a lot more. But I will see if I can try to do an update here. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's just a lot of people in the boot camp. So, I'll get to it when I get to it. But just hang tight, and you will get feedback. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is just make our way over to the Discord, and I invite you to come over and talk in the Q&A, and just tell me how things are going, and we continue this conversation there. So, appreciate everyone coming out to the stream, even though there wasn't much to do here today. But don't worry, next week's going to be really fun as we work with CDK and building out a serverless pipeline. So I'll see you there soon. And by the way, do you like my Fargate hat? I don't know if it was very clear that I was wearing one, but I have a Fargate hat. So yeah, there we go. Ciao, ciao.